Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for royal news and updates. She's clearly doing this because she's trying to prove something to the regular news media. Now they're starting to talk about this whole birth story being fake, and these stories are coming from Meghan. So she's trying to show the people who don't believe her. Look, it is really me giving birth. See, I'm in the hospital dancing like a fool. She has a history of wearing fake baby bumps. There's something very wrong with that shape in my opinion. I think they will break up within 12 months. This is developing today. It was the job that shocked the whole world for all the wrong reasons. Meghan Markle believed that she would finally stop the ongoing questions. And I believe these questions are very accurate questions about whether she had been wearing a fake moon bump. Here's why this matters. If these children were not born from Meghan Markle's body, then they cannot be part of the line of succession. We're talking about the royal line of succession. We're talking about Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, of course. Then this video came out. Let's take a look at some of it, because this video has shocked so many people. Meghan quite clearly here, is wearing some type of fake moon bump. This is not a natural body position. That's before you even consider the fact she was never supposed to be in this story. For years, the public saw one version of what happened, a royal love story. To pregnancies, and the arrival of children shown as symbols of a modern royal family. Everything looked polished, controlled, and complete. But behind that carefully created image, another woman says she was hidden away, silenced, and erased. She goes by the initials DL, according to what she says. She wasn't just a witness. She wasn't an assistant. She wasn't a background person watching events happen from far away. She claimed she was the woman who carried the children, both of them, from the beginning to delivery. DL says her silence was not her choice. It was a requirement. For years, she stayed quiet, tied down by agreements that promised privacy in exchange for disappearing. No interviews, no acknowledgement, no identity. Just a life lived outside the public record, while someone else stepped forward as the face of motherhood. Now she says that silence has become impossible to keep, because the story the world accepted, she claims, was never the full story. Remember to subscribe to Royal Daily Report for more updates. DL describes a plan that was designed to leave no fingerprints. She says she was hired through a private high-level agency working far from public view. The mission, as she understood it, was simple and absolute. Carry the pregnancies, follow medical instructions without question, and then step away permanently once the children were born. There would be no acknowledgement, no connection, no future role. She claimed she was placed under strict rules. Her movements were controlled. Her contact with the outside world was cut off. No phone calls, no visits, no personal freedoms that might create a trail. Her life became a rotation of watched rest, medical appointments, and silence. According to what she says, this wasn't cruelty, it was precision. Everything was designed to make sure of one outcome. The pregnancies would happen, and no one outside, a very small circle, would ever know how. DL says she signed detailed agreements, documents that outlined payment, confidentiality, and complete erasure. Once the children were delivered, she would vanish from the story entirely, as if she had never existed. And for a long time, she did exactly that. For years, silence protected the story. Then silence stopped working. DL now claims she has materials that move this out of the realm of stories and into the realm of law. She alleges she has signed agreements, medical documentation, pregnancy timelines, ultrasounds, and written letters between legal teams and the agency that managed the arrangement. This is no longer about interpretation, it's about evidence. According to source claims, DL has hired legal counsel and is prepared to testify under oath. She has agreed to DNA testing, not privately, not quietly, but through formal legal channels. That changes everything. Once legal processes begin, public relations no longer control the pace. Evidence does. Timelines do. Verification does. At that point, no amount of silence can pause what's coming. And behind palace walls, this shift has not gone unnoticed. While DL says she lived in isolation, another story was happening in public. Cameras followed Meghan Markle through appearances, interviews, and carefully planned moments. There were smiles, soft lighting, and a visible pregnancy presented as natural, joyful, and entirely seamless. The image was confident, reassuring, controlled. But according to DL, those two realities were happening at the same time. She describes herself going through the physical strain of pregnancy in silence, while watching from far away as someone else received the attention, the praise, and the recognition that traditionally follows motherhood. One woman carried the biological weight of the pregnancies. Another carried the public role. The contrast, she says, was intentional. Public visibility required consistency. Silence required obedience. DL claims she understood the imbalance, even accepted it at the time. The arrangement wasn't about fairness. It was about outcome. The children would arrive. The story would remain intact. And the world would never question how it all happened. Until now. Because once two pregnancies exist in two separate realities, one hidden, one performed, the question becomes unavoidable. If one woman was never allowed to speak, what else was never allowed to surface? And how long can a story built on silence hold together before it begins to break? Don't forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report. Royal births are never quiet. For generations, they have followed a rigid, almost ceremonial pattern. Doctors appear on hospital steps. Official confirmations are witnessed. Details are logged, signed, and verified. These rituals exist for one reason only: to remove doubt. But in this case, those footsteps never appeared. There were no doctors standing outside the hospital, no immediate photographs, no traditional confirmations that usually come with the birth of a child tied to the line of succession. Instead, the public received a simple announcement, a press release, a statement that read as if several steps had been skipped. The children had arrived. That was all anyone was told. At the time, it was framed as modernity, a break from tradition, a desire for privacy. But privacy and protocol are not the same thing. One can exist without eliminating the other. This time, the system that exists to document royal legitimacy simply wasn't there. According to source claims, questions were discouraged behind closed doors, not delayed. Not answered quietly, discouraged. The absence of procedure wasn't explained. It was accepted. And when institutions built on record-keeping allow gaps, those gaps eventually invite attention. For a while, the image held. Public appearances continued. The pregnancy narrative moved forward as expected. But gradually, moments began to surface that didn't quite align with what people recognized as normal physical changes. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to feel off. There were appearances where the pregnancy seemed unusually large, unusually low. Moments where movement caused sharp creases instead of soft shifts. Instances where the silhouette appeared inconsistent from one setting to another. Individually, none of these moments proved anything. But patterns don't rely on a single frame. They rely on repetition. According to claims now emerging, these weren't natural variations. DL alleges the use of specially designed fake pregnancy bellies, molded to match different stages, worn to maintain a consistent public image. She claims each appearance was rehearsed, each angle considered, each moment curated. The goal wasn't deception for attention, it was consistency for credibility. But consistency only works when nothing goes wrong, and eventually something did. Then came the video that changed the tone of everything. A hospital room. A visibly pregnant Meghan Markle. Music playing. Movement meant to suggest labor was near. The message was clear. This is real. This is happening, and nothing is hidden. But instead of closing the discussion, the video intensified it. To many observers, the moment felt staged rather than spontaneous. Not intimate, but performative. It wasn't the act itself that raised eyebrows. It was the timing and intention behind it. The video arrived not during the pregnancy, but much later, as questions were beginning to circulate quietly. According to those familiar with crisis management, this is a classic misstep. When proof arrives after doubt, it rarely reassures. It invites scrutiny. Rather than grounding the narrative, the video made the situation feel rehearsed, as though authenticity was being demonstrated rather than lived. And from that moment on, the conversation shifted. The focus was no longer on whether the public should believe the story, but on why the story suddenly needed reinforcing at all. Once that shift happens, control becomes fragile, and the image that once felt unshakable begins to crack. Stories can be argued. Documents are harder to dismiss. When the official birth records became public, something immediately stood out. Meghan Markle's legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was missing. In its place appeared a title, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. At first, this was brushed off as administrative confusion. One side quietly suggested the palace handled it. The palace, just as quietly suggested it, came from Meghan's camp. No one took responsibility. No one offered a clear explanation. But according to DL, this wasn't an accident at all. She claims the alteration was deliberate, part of a legal strategy designed to blur responsibility and shield the underlying truth. Titles don't give birth, people do. And when paperwork shifts focus away from an individual and toward an institution, it becomes harder to trace accountability. In royal systems, documentation is everything. Names matter. Records matter. They establish lineage, legitimacy, and legal standing. When something as basic as a mother's name is altered, it raises a question that cannot be ignored. Why change what didn't need changing? Subscribe to Royal Daily Report for the latest royal news. Until now, the story could still be framed as personal controversy. That illusion ends here. DL claims Prince Harry was not a distant observer. She alleges he knew about the arrangement, that he visited her during the pregnancy, that he even wrote a handwritten letter expressing gratitude after the births. If true, this doesn't just implicate a couple. It implicates the line of succession itself. The monarchy is not celebrity theater. It is a constitutional institution built on bloodlines and law. Titles, inheritance, and public funding all depend on legitimacy. If children placed in the line of succession were born under undisclosed circumstances, the consequences are not symbolic. They are structural. According to source claims, internal discussions are already taking place. Legal advisors, constitutional experts, quiet contingency planning. Not because a verdict has been reached, but because the risk can no longer be ignored. This is the line that cannot be crossed. Once bloodlines are questioned, the entire structure feels the tremor. And now, there is only silence. No denials. No legal threats. No public reassurances from a couple known for carefully crafted messaging. The absence is striking. In environments where image is everything, silence is rarely confidence. It is calculation or fear. Behind the scenes, sources claim contingency plans are being drawn. Discussions about distancing, about damage control, about how to protect the institution from a truth it never expected to face publicly. At the center of it all are two children born into a story they did not choose, now positioned at the heart of a question far larger than themselves. DL says she is ready for testing, ready for court, ready to place truth above silence, regardless of the cost. If her claims are confirmed, this will not be remembered as embarrassment. It will be remembered as exposure, as the moment a carefully constructed narrative collapsed under the weight of documentation, biology, and time. The royal stage is quiet now. The lights are dim, the actors have stopped speaking. But silence is not the end of a story. It is the pause before the truth arrives. Thank you for watching Royal Daily Report. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all royal news. This is Royal Daily Report, signing off.